Hey everybody, it's Merlin here.
Hey guys.
Got Dan of Dan Reviews It, and we're doing kind of a spur of the moment video, and to be honest, it's something that I felt like I was going to have to do for a while.
Yeah.
Sometimes...
We knew it was coming.
We knew
at some point.
This one wasn't as much of a tragedy, but sometimes when celebrities, particularly actors that have a personal connection to me in some way in my life, just creative forces, I sometimes, do videos or write articles. Robin Williams was the first big one, mostly because that one took me so off guard.
Yeah.
I was like, I just had to do something.
And for me, Chris Cornell, I did a Cornell video on my channel.
Video. I did one for Nimoy. And I think those are the only ones I've done on my channel that I can remember that were big enough to do separate videos on. But as you guys probably know, Stan Lee, the great Stan Lee, did pass away finally.
Yeah.
And he'd been having health problems for a while.
Yeah, and his wife of, I believe it was 69 years.
She died recently.
Died a year ago, a little over a year ago. And, that has to just kill a person,
I believe they say that, somebody's together that long with somebody and they go, usually they follow after. Because he put such a connection to somebody. That's probably what did it more than anything.
And God bless him, he has so much going on in his life that a normal 95-year-old would not.
The stress.
So at least he had something to sort of divert the attention, but still, and that is so hard to lose your wife.
You think even with all the greatness of being Stan Lee, it still was too much?
I mean, how could it not be?
Yeah, if the
love of your life for close to 7 decades.
Yeah, wow.
Passes on. Yeah, I mean, how can that just not destroy you?
Honestly, I'm fully for that theory.
Yeah,
I think that's probably what happened.
Died of a broken heart. I mean, look at Carrie Fisher.
Oh yeah,
Carrie Fisher, her mother. They were best friends. Her mother dies 2 days later.
That does happen a lot with close family, especially if they're. That's true. Basically, this is a video, kind of, not just as an announcement, but kind of as a way to just kind of not be overly sad because, he was 95.
Right.
Very.
Yeah, you can't ask for a better life than he had.
No, literally just a very happy guy, very engaged, and obviously did so much great stuff for entertainment.
Yeah. Such an innovator.
I can't really say that it's not really a tragedy, but it's still sad, and it's definitely worth talking about.
Right,
and,
right.
And I have to say, just because I don't want to be too much of a downer here, but it was kind of irritating me a little bit because I was a bit sad today. But I talked to a couple people about it, mostly at work, and most people were like, we knew it was coming, and it was like, he was really old, it was happening, but I don't know, it still affects me personally, and I knew it was going to. We're going to eventually do some top 5s. We're going to do the top 5 Stan Lee cameos. But we could just have a little chat first beforehand.
Sure.
I just want to talk a little bit about Stan Lee. I was just trying to go over the thoughts in my mind here and mull over it and see what I can come up with. And the effect that Stan Lee had on me was rather profound, but because he affected me at such a young age, I didn't even know who he was for a long time.
Oh, sure.
And it's one of those instances where I'm sure many young people growing up, they might encounter a show or a toy or whatever that is created by somebody that in many cases they might not know who it is. Walt Disney's another good example. But before you really know much about the man, and I think that one thing that's really unique about Stan Lee, and I think our friend Peter made a post about it where he mentioned it, and that Stan Lee was very engaged with his fans.
Yeah.
And he loved what he did.
That was a very well-spoken post that Peter wrote, yeah.
Yeah, he did one, because
it was true. He really, and he listened
to the
fans. I think a lot of people, certainly in his position of such great, power. I mean,
collect the check, step away.
Let's not, I guess, badmouth people. But I feel like George Lucas, for example, is an example of somebody who
got fed up with his own
who sort
legacy.
Literally
signed it away.
Begrudged his fans at some points.
I respect George Lucas a lot, but he definitely seems like a person who he's tired of the thing that made him the most successful. Whereas Stan Lee never got that impression.
Embraced it.
He always
embraced the fans, you know.
And even like some involvement. I mean, no, obviously that executive producer credit might only mean so much, but he tried to have some involvement with pretty much everything they did.
Right,
and
right.
Even if it was just like being the figurehead, like we'll talk about the cameos later, but he interjected himself in comics after he stopped writing them.
Right.
After he stopped being the editor, he'd pop up in the TV shows, the movies, the video games.
To my knowledge, too, and maybe this is incorrect, but to my knowledge, he had also handpicked a lot of those people. You know, like when Kevin Smith, for example, you know, wanted to work on some of the shows or whatever, or the comic books, or who's that comedian? Brian Posehn, you know, wanted to write for Deadpool and stuff like that. You know, as far as I'm aware, you know, Stan Lee had a nice hand in sort of, you know, cherry picking those people.
It's kind of like, I think Stan Lee, I know that after a certain point he kind of stepped away from the business model at Marvel and kind of became basically the executive figurehead. When it came to some of the decisions, I don't know how much official power he had, but he was Stan Lee, so he had clout. You know,
sure.
He had influence.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely sure that for quite some time, if Stan Lee, you know, pushed you, that's probably the case.
Right.
Like,
and maybe not
with everyone,
with the more recent examples that I just gave, but certainly over time.
You're probably not wrong because he was on good terms with everybody, and he was, you know, buddies with Kevin Smith, as we might talk about later.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure that had some impact. Because that's how Kevin Smith finally got into writing comics, is because he, you know, was friends with some of these people, a big fan of himself. But that's a good example of how cool Stan Lee was.
Yeah,
and I don't know, I just
even okay. So you know, talking about the fans, remember he did a video like
he did
6 months ago or whatever, 8 months ago. You know, just telling everybody, you know, hey, yes, I've had, you know, the flu or what, you know.
Oh yeah, I've been sick.
Remember he was sick. I don't know if he had pneumonia or whatever. Yeah, I know you guys are worried about me. I just want you to know, you know, da. I mean, who does that? You know?
Yeah, he still knew his fans cared, and he was like,
absolutely.
Because he felt like he had that much of a, I guess, as personal connection as you can have with your fans. Because he was the guy who always had a sense of humor in the comics, where he would mention, like little hints and little jokes about making fun of himself. So like, if you remember in this issue, you know, we typically do this.
Right.
I'm Stan the Man Lee, and he had like a nickname for this person. And of course, back in the day, I don't know if they still do it now, but people could send in like comments about the issue, and they put little blocks in, and he'd respond back to the fans about like the issue, and what's going on with SpiderMan. Like they used to do stuff like that, and Stan was one of those guys that he even back then was engaged with the fans and had fun with it. He had fun with what he did, and he loved what he did.
Well, and you know, you bring up a good point, because you know, you're talking about back in the day here,
like the 60s.
It's
70s.
So easy now between Twitter and Facebook and just the internet in general to connect with your fans. You know, this was an era way before that, and he was really, you know, groundbreaking in that regard. I can think of very few people from that era. Ringo Starr is the only other one I can really think of who personally responded to every fan letter, even if it took him years, which was, you know, a joke on The Simpsons. Marge got her letter from Ringo like 20 years after the fact. But Ringo really did that. And, you know, Stan is the same way. You know, he really, long before the internet, long before it was so easy to connect with your fans, he made it...
That effort.
He made the effort. He made it very possible... you know, to connect with them on a level that I don't think a lot of people did.
And I don't know, I guess the one part I want to kind of shift into here before we get into, I guess, the top fives and stuff is kind of looking at our own personal experience, how we feel Stan Lee's affected us, and how we perceive him, and everything he's created to some extent. Because I know it's different, so I kind of want to hear yours. But I'll go first to give you mine. I was kind of going into this before, how people impact you before you know it. I mean, I grew up with those Saturday morning cartoons in the 90s with, like, on Fox Kids, Spider-Man the animated series, X-Men the animated series. Those were my introductions to those worlds. And by extension, I remember the first, like, not the first comics I read, but the first ones that I religiously read were, they used to sell these trade paperbacks of, like, the first, it was usually 20 issues of I read the first
wow.
100 issues of Amazing Spider-Man.
I love when they do that.
Which
reprints.
They need to do those more. It's harder when they cross over. But basically, the first 100 issues, I think, of most of the characters, he wrote. So I have read every Amazing Spider-Man comic that he wrote.
Right.
They wish the originals, they were just a collection, black and white. But I loved those. And I honestly say that they are a little campy, I guess, by today's standards, but honestly, the stories were really good. And they were fun.
Yeah.
They were enjoyable, and just so many classics. I mean, and that was like my first real direct experience with something he created.
Okay.
And then kind of eventually figuring out who he was. I remember I had a guidebook for Spider-Man just going over all the characters. It's how I learned about the universe and everything before I knew as much about it.
Mm-hmm.
And he did the introduction and talked about...
Oh, that's cool.
He made a mention of, some people call me, compare me to, being the Walt Disney of comics, though, I mean, I'm not that big. I mean, that's if you even know who I am. This is back in,
wow.
This is back in, 99, 2000.
Okay.
So maybe when, only a hardcore fan would really know who he was.
Right.
And I think that's funny because now everyone knows who Stan Lee is.
Everybody.
And I think that was interesting, just that little note. And he had the little Excelsior, and what does that mean?
Yeah.
And then as I picked up little tidbits over the time, oh, that's Stan Lee. Oh, he seems cool. That's the guy that made Spider-Man, this character. And then just, eventually catching the interviews and the other things, just getting a really sense of what a positive force he was.
Mm-hmm.
It's in addition to creating a lot of these characters that I love deeply, I really do love superhero comics. And it's funny, I usually say that I'm more of a DC guy, but Spider-Man in particular is
You've always been... Spider-Man, I would say, is your number one.
Like as a kid, that gets me, right here.
Yeah.
And that's a great character I was able to relate to. So many people were, and they still are today, and just so many different creative elements. And combine that with the fact that he seemed to be such a genuinely cool guy, good person with a great influence. I mean, that's just amazing.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of a hodgepodge of my experience effect, and I don't know why I like Stan Lee, and I'm a little sad he's gone.
Yeah. Well, Spider-Man was my foray into the man as well. We were just talking about this recently.
Mm-hmm.
I used to watch my weekday morning lineup included Spider-Man 67. Aired at 6:30 in the morning on what is now Fox 29. As before Fox even was a station. And yeah, of course I didn't know who Stan Lee was, But it's funny that you say about that, because it's I'm thinking about in my childhood, when you watch a sitcom, it always says, real big on the screen, created by whoever, So it's I knew people that I'm sure nobody knows now, like Sherwood Schwartz, I could tell you, created the Brady Bunch and Gilligan's Island, all these shows I watched as a kid, but I never knew who Stan Lee was.
Uh-huh.
Same thing as you. I would say I wasn't really aware of who Stan Lee was probably until Mallrats, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I had heard the name, because I remember when I saw Mallrats, I wasn't like, who's this dude?
Uh-huh.
So I must have heard the name in passing at some point, or associated it with the Hulk or with Spider-Man. I guess I sort of watched the Bill Bixby Hulk show when I was a kid as well.
Yeah.
So, I'm sure Stan Lee's name was probably somewhere in the credits there, too.
Mm-hmm.
So I was aware of who he was. But when I saw that cameo in Mallrats, it sort of put a human being behind it,
Definitely.
And I thought that was really cool that Kevin Smith did that. To me, I thought, oh, well, that's obviously an Easter egg for hardcore comic book fans.
Which it would have been at the time.
Which was not me.
Yeah.
Me, I'm an Archie guy. But I understood even then. I was like, well, this is obviously a big deal. Jason Lee's character is freaking out, and he's a huge comic book nerd in the movie. So it's I knew that, okay, Kevin Smith must have pulled some strings for this.
Mm-hmm.
I got the impression that Stan Lee doesn't just show up for stuff. You know what I mean? That is a get that Kevin Smith got.
Yeah.
So even without knowing much about him or his history, just the power and the presence of that one scene was okay, this dude is the man. And I sort of delved more into it after that. Because I was a huge Kevin Smith fan.
Yeah.
In the 90s. So I was like, well, if he gets Kevin Smith's seal of approval,
Must be a cool guy.
I need to look into this a little bit more. Yes, obviously safe to say you're much more of a comic book man than myself.
Maybe a little.
But I'm a big movie guy.
Definitely.
And, when they started doing the Maguire Spider-Man movies, they were just some of the most fantastic superhero movies I'd ever seen. Still to this day, I love Spider-Man 2.
Oh, yeah, I do too.
So I think there's a lot of, from that point on, it was like you couldn't really throw a rock in a movie discussion about superheroes without talking about Stan Lee.
No, you just couldn't. And I still think, I know that we'll probably get into it more, and I hope this doesn't deviate. Did you finish your point?
Yeah.
Okay. How do you feel about the fact that they've apparently filmed all of the cameos in advance already?
Yeah, it's funny. I had heard that maybe 6 to 8 months ago.
Kind of weirds me out a little bit.
I guess maybe when he fell a bit ill, at the beginning of the year, I had heard that, he's got 4 or 5 cameos in the can. You know what? I think it was wise, to be completely honest, and I'm not saying that now because he's gone. I thought it then, too. I thought to myself, you know what? Mm-hmm. He's not going to live forever.
Get a few more in there.
I think it's smart to, especially after knowing that his wife had died, I just sort of thought, the guy's in his mid-90s.
Yeah.
His wife of 7 decades just passed. How long are we going to have him for? I thought it was smart that they did it.
All right.
To be honest, were you weirded out by it?
I'm a little weirded out.
Just thought it was a little morbid, maybe.
Maybe at the moment. I'm wondering how the fan reaction is going to be.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure now everyone's going to be happy that he did it.
I hope so. As long as it gets the laughs, as long as it's not too jarring. I mean, maybe people are in good enough spirits that it won't be a big deal.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. I mean, I feel like at this point with audiences, the cameos are the legacy. Well, it's like people don't delve into it quite as much as maybe you or I and look at the history of everything he's done and this and that and the other thing. Mm-hmm. They see him as, they know who he is and they know he's the creator.
Yeah.
But it's like, here's that funny old dude that does the cameos.
And that'll make people happy.
Yeah, I mean, I think people
for the average
are going to look forward to it. I think what will be sad is the first one that we don't have him in. And I'm not sure what that will be.
Well, I guess that means in Captain Marvel, we're going to probably see a dedicated Stan Lee.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I wonder if we'll get any montage or anything interesting about it.
Maybe.
Like a short thing. That'd
be nice to do that as the tag scene.
Yeah, as like a little mini doc, like a 2-minute thing or something.
Yeah.
I'd watch it. As a bonus thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're listening, guys, if you can put that together seriously, I'll watch a little reel about his life.
I'm sure people that would be cool.
As the end credit scene.
Yeah.
That could be a thing. Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Like do the plug for the next movie in the middle, and then if you stay for the end, you get a little bonus about Stan Lee.
Yeah.
I'd be cool with that. Just the history of everything about him was interesting, too. How he built himself from the ground up. I mean, really.
Yeah.
Just really fascinating. I guess we can...
Well, and just real quick.
Yeah.
So late in life, too. You think about, he created these characters a while ago, but I mean, he was 90 when he passed, so he had to be in his 30s or 40s probably when he started really creating these characters.
If I know my history, he got started at Marvel before it was Marvel, back when it was like Timely or something.
Okay.
Like, I think he actually may have written those early, like, Human Torch, or he was around during that time. He got started writing comics early on, but he didn't, like, move up to be one of the main writers and I guess editor-in-chief till like the 60s or 70s. And then he in the 60s there was a superhero boom where he made those characters like the Fantastic Four to compete with Justice League to do a team, and then he just started making all the characters, and then he only had a couple decades, I think, actually at Marvel Comics where he really had a lot of creative control.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I guess, let's see. We got to do the math here.
When you think about it, he was born in the 20s.
Got to do the math.
1922, I think.
1922. Okay, so
or 23.
You're right. So he was probably 40 years old when he made Spider-Man.
40s when he made Spider-Man. So it's like,
so yeah, kind of late in the career.
You think about that, and it's like, it's kind of mind blowing,
especially back then.
The
average guy probably would just like picked an office to be in somewhere and just hauled it out
right.
Yeah, and he just went into the tough world of writing comic books, which was not a glorious thing back in the day. I mean, that was like...
I mean, it was
tough. It was a week, like a paycheck by paycheck kind of thing, you know? Writer, starving artist kind of thing. It's a tough racket, as they say.
What a racket.
But it worked, though.
Yeah.
It's really... And I think that passion is really what... And the imagination, too.
Yeah. And I was just going to say, too, looking at this nice picture of him that we have on the screen, he seemed to not only, embrace his late in life fame and the fans throughout his career, but he just seemed to be a happy, jovial guy. He seemed to really enjoy what he was doing. He seemed to enjoy his life. You see a lot of people... certainly in their later stages in life, 70s, 80s, 90s, of these famous, maybe actors or directors or whatever, that just seem like curmudgeons.
They're over it. They're
over it, and you see, somebody like Stan Lee, and I always say, Betty White, that'll be another tragedy, but yet not an unexpected one.
No.
She's in her 90s. Dick Van Dyke is another one in his 90s, and he just seems to love his life.
And that's, I think, part of what keeps people alive is just that energy. And honestly, that's one thing that I find amazing, too, is that most 95-year-olds just don't have that.
Right.
And, he was able to... He stopped doing conventions fairly recently.
Yes. I would say...
last year or two?
Yeah, within the last 2 years, he was still doing them.
That's intense.
Because one of our buddies from the theater... went up to, I think it was New Hampshire or something, to a con and got his autograph.
I think that might have been the last one.
And that was maybe the last one. That was not much more than a year and a half, maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's recent that he stopped even doing that. Because he just loved it so much.
He did. He loved going out and meeting fans and keeping the fans happy.
Yeah.
And I think that's one reason why he liked doing the cameos.
Yeah.
And that's my
so let's do it.
Transition.
What a pro. Come on.
I mean, I'm good at going
the Merlin segue.
The segues, comes from writing all the essays.
There you go. That's true.
Well, how do you want to do this, man? You want to just go like one by one?
I didn't honestly even rank them. I know.
If I had known that,
but no, I'll rank them right now for you. That's fine.
All right.
Yep. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Nailed it.
All right. I'll tell you what. We'll go bottom. We'll talk. See if this overlaps. You want to start?
Yeah, I can start.
Okay.
Okay, so my number 5 is Captain America Civil War. He shows up as the FedEx guy, and he calls Tony Stank.
Tony Stank was funny.
I thought that was funny.
That was funny.
And it was, it was sort of, I don't know, it was... I like his Iron Man cameos a lot.
I think the Don Cheadle...
and that's what it is. I think the Cheadle sort of back and forth, made it funny.
Right. Tony Stank, that's him, yeah.
So that was my 5.
All right. Mine was actually from a movie I know you love, Fantastic Four Silver Surfer.
Actually, that was on my short list.
Because, the thing is, I like a lot of those cameos where it's just kind of like a quick little line that's a little meta at the expense of one of the characters. And I thought that one was the best of those. Because, he goes to the wedding and he's like, Reed and Sue Storm are getting married, and he's like, I'm Stan Lee, I'm not on there. My invitation.
That's a good one.
It's like, okay, all right, maybe in universe they don't know, but he's the guy that made them. He's the one to go to their wedding.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty funny.
That was definitely on my short list. Okay, so my number 4 is actually him playing someone famous, but not Stan Lee.
Which is it? Is it Hugh Hefner?
It is.
Okay, it was either that or the other one.
I liked that one more. Iron Man 2, I think, was the other one. I can't remember.
It was David Letterman.
No, not David Letterman.
God, this
Oh, Larry King.
Larry King, Larry King Live, yes.
It's such a little throwaway because I don't think he says anything.
No, he just like,
but you know, Tony like walks past him. He's like, looking good, Hef, you know, and then Stanley turns around and gives kind of, you know, his mugging face at the camera. I thought that was funny.
Hey, honey. Behold editing.
Hello.
You'll be in here though.
What?
How do you feel about Stanley passing, honey? I know you're sad. But you expected
it's sad, but it's not tragic.
Yeah, we kind of talked about
it. That's what I said. I said that's how it's going to be when Betty White dies. It'll be sad, but not unexpected.
Yeah.
You know.
It's not going to be like, oh God, he overdosed on something.
Yeah.
Gone too soon. Like
that would have been.
He's crossing.
Robin Williams.
Yeah. I'm trying.
Won't be like that.
It's like every time I try to get past that, I feel like I keep coming back to Robin Williams
because it was one of the most tragic things.
It's sad. It's really sad. But different bit. Yes, honey?
I thought you were still talking to me.
Oh, well, yeah.
I just moved the router for you guys. I don't know if you're using it.
All we're using it for is this wonderful picture of Stan Lee to kind of keep us in the mindset.
Yeah.
Yes, but Hef was good.
Yeah, Hef was good. And you know, I'm like you. I like a quick cameo as much as the next guy.
That was one that was
and Hugh Hefner was very quick. But I think that's the only one that's real short on my list. Like I had, you know, the Deadpool strip club was a good little bit. Spider-Man Homecoming chatting across the alley to Marjorie, that was funny.
Kick your ass.
But I don't know. I like mine a little more, I guess, when he interacts with the characters.
Same.
So yeah, but anyway, that was my number 4.
Yeah, I kind of, there were a couple of the short, quick ones, but I was kind of trying to see which ones do I think are funny out of context.
Right.
What I was aiming for. So, yeah, my next one, actually, on that note, is from the Guardians of the Galaxy... No, wait. Nuts. Is it? No, yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, The Watchers. Because, now that one is, like, probably the most, like... it's kind of a two-parter in a way.
It really is.
It's really in-depth. But it's also so inside, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, like, The Watchers. Like, I feel like... Did you know who Utel the Watcher was? You probably looked confused.
Yeah, you explained it to me.
Because, yeah, the thing, I just love that.
On my channel, I believe.
I think I did. I was like, yes, because it's somebody that hadn't shown up in the comics yet. But, you know, because I guess they got the rights for Fantastic Four, and Utel the Watcher is that powerful being that oversees everything. But Stan Lee, of course, he's all powerful. It explains why he's doing the cameos.
Right.
I thought that was great. Maybe a little long, perhaps, but I thought it was pretty awesome.
Well, you might hear a nice echo.
Oh...
My number 3 is also Guardians 2.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I thought it was very funny. One of the funnier ones, just because. Just
and then
his,
it was a Federal
expression at the end. Right. He pulls back to the FedEx part, which I of course love because I love that cameo. But then also, you know, I love where the guys are getting up at the end, you know, and he says to them, "Oh, geez, you know, I've got more." He's like, "I've got more stories to tell, guys," and I just thought that was very like, you know, Stanley does have more stories to tell. You know?
So you
thought it was a little prescient.
It was prescient, and it was kind of speaking to him. He is the storyteller. He is
right. So I thought it worked on a number of levels.
You know, that's true. It's almost
even
like,
before you explain to me about the Watchers,
because he is kind of like the god of the
right.
He would be the person above them,
right?
But it's funny they don't take him seriously, and they stop dealing with them.
Yeah,
I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, I thought that one worked on a number of levels.
That was really good.
Yeah,
my one. I guess I actually mixed them up. That one was above this one, but the one I had below that originally was the surprised me, but I thought it was really good. Maybe because I like that whole scene in general. I think it works really well with that. Is Age of Ultron when he shows up as the veteran and he's threatening. He challenges to drink Thor's booze.
Yes.
And then of course he can. And he goes Excelsior. I'm like
that was pretty classic.
That was just really funny.
Yeah. I agree. Okay, so my number 2, are we up to? Yes, I guess so.
Yeah, we are now.
So, my favorite series for him to be in is Spider-Man. I had a lot of the Spider-Man cameos on the short list.
There were some good ones.
You know, we talked about the chatting across the alleyway in Spider-Man Homecoming. I thought that was great. One of our classics, I think, is my number 2, and that is The Amazing Spider-Man 1, where he is the librarian with the headphones on.
I'm sorry.
It's one of the funniest
Dan.
of all the cameos. Tell me.
Spoilers. That was my number 2 as well.
Is that right?
Because
it's just so funny.
There's something about that that's just so perfect. Because I know I'm taking it from you, man.
No.
But like, I probably
let's talk about it. Yeah.
But like, I like.
Because we've discussed that particular scene before.
It's just
when I think of Stanley cameos, I think it maybe is the most memorable for me.
Because it's like it doesn't really involve quips or him directly.
No.
He's almost oblivious. He could be another character, but it's just that contrast of him. The contrast between the library and the battle behind. There's something about it which is. It's just really well shot too.
It is. And it's very funny, and his expressionless face while all that's going on because he doesn't know. It's great.
There's something about it that's just really. It's kind of. I think it's kind of near perfect.
It really is. It is near perfect, but not.
It's
my number 1.
No, it's not my number 1 either. What is your number 1 then?
Okay, my number 1 also comes from the SpiderMan universe.
Okay.
And maybe you'll be surprised.
I am already.
Because it is a garbage movie.
Is it from 3?
It is actually his cameo in Spider-Man 3.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. Because he speaks directly to Peter.
Yeah.
To Toby.
Peter Parker, yeah.
And he kind of... There's Toby's sort of in awe of the crawl, on the wall about Spider-Man. Does this, whatever, saves the day, and he puts his hand, on Peter's shoulder, and he says, one person can make a difference, and to me, talk about levels. Obviously you've got Spider-Man, but
you're thinking deep about these today.
I am. I am. It's that kind of day.
This is good. That's fair enough.
But, not only obviously is he speaking about Spider-Man and Peter, but he's talking about the world in general, of course. Mm-hmm. But I sort of... and maybe he would have been too humble to do this for himself, but obviously the line was written for him.
I see where you're going.
Look, the guy made an entire universe. He
definitely made it.
And I think, especially watching it today, if you asked me this
back then, throw away.
If you asked me this a year ago while Stan, was still alive, I probably wouldn't have had the same answer. But watching it today, it was just so impactful to me that really, this man really did make a huge difference to the world. Really.
Yeah.
Especially, look at right now how these movies, these movies are the most successful movies out there. Mm-hmm. And they bring people together. Listen, everybody, man, woman, old, young, black, white, whatever.
Pretty much.
Everybody. These are universal movies. And he created all of that. One person can make a difference. Watching it today was very powerful. That's my number 1.
Dan, I can't really beat that, dude.
I'm sorry, but you must.
Well,
because it's got to be a different one.
Well, maybe
you were very surprised by my answer.
I was a bit surprised, and maybe I have a card up my sleeve, but I will give you that because, when I was looking at it, I was looking at the angle of honestly, which one were the funniest, which ones, made me laugh the most because that seemed to be the purpose of the cameo. Mm-hmm. But that's a good one because that one was actually one of the ones where there was interaction, but it wasn't humorous.
Right.
Good message, obviously.
Yeah, it's one of the few where they really weren't trying to go for a laugh.
No, and it was a good one, and I definitely see where you're going.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a great choice.
Thank you.
It's a very good one. But mine, I kind of went a little out there because I couldn't not do it.
Okay.
The best Stanley cameo is in Mallrats.
Okay.
Yeah, and
I wasn't really gonna count that just because it's not a Marvel movie, but it's certainly a Stanley cameo.
But no, I had to cheat there because I don't even consider it a cheat because he did cameos and things besides the movies and the shows and whatnot. But when I think about the Stanley cameo, I think that's one where we get to see him kind of playing himself.
Yeah.
At a different time and outside of the context of when he was popular, and he really became known for the cameo.
Right.
It's still kind of something that was very inside. I just love the enjoyment he got from that, even at that time.
Yeah.
Even when, like you said, it was it was a favor.
Yeah.
Or for somebody or to somebody, not part of the process.
Right.
Necessarily, which was really kind of evident of everything he was doing up until that point. That fan interaction.
Right.
I think that was before things leveled out.
You almost got the sense that if this wasn't a movie and the Jason Lee character, the Brody, whatever, he passed Stanley, in the mall or whatever, that they actually might have had that sort of interaction. Really knowing what we know about Stanley now, it's like it seems
very believable.
Very believable,
and that's what I like about it. It seems very, very natural for the most part. Like there is still that whimsy, but that kind of makes it seem like maybe it wasn't that exaggerated.
Yeah.
I think his cameos, he was basically playing himself.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great example of how genuine he was.
Well, and certainly I think that's a great number one as well. Obviously, I've already extolled my experience with the Mallrats cameo.
Yeah.
So I can't deny that.
Back. Yeah, it was really good. Also, give a shout out to the fact that he was the narrator for the SpiderMan N64 game, which I loved.
Oh, okay.
He was like, "Oh, Spidey, you gotta get him."
Oh, that's cool.
Which, of course, back then I wouldn't have known who that was. And then narrated by Stanley. Now it means something.
Wow.
It means more.
Yeah.
But yeah,
what a list.
What an influence.
Yeah. He really, he impacted. So much about entertainment and
it's almost
the world around us, and
it's like you said, you almost can't even encompass it. It's amazing how much one person can do, and it's like wow, they completely.
That's why I had to pick it as my number one.
You're right.
It
works.
One person can make a difference, and in this case, certainly did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't end it better than that either, Dan. I really can't. You felt very inspired to do this today.
I did.
Because I was.
Well, you were the first person I thought of.
Well, thank you.
When I saw the news, I texted you immediately and said, "Hey, do you want to do this top?" Because we had talked about doing a top 5 in the event eventually that he was going to pass.
Yeah.
And I didn't know if you were feeling that, on this day, but
to be honest, I didn't know how I was going to feel because I knew it was going to happen.
Yeah.
And honestly, I was like, I thought I might be really sad about it. But the truth is, it kind of caught me off guard because I was working and I got into the office and it was busy, so I kind of found out about it while I was in the middle of stuff. Like, oh wow, I didn't have time to fully process it. I think if I had had a day off, or it had happened the night before, it might have been different. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I just kind of was like, wow, life goes on, but it's still definitely worth talking about. And
absolutely.
I was planning on doing something, and you just said, come on over and we'll do a video. I'm like, yeah, what? I'll do it.
Yeah.
While it's still...
Well, I appreciate you letting me come on your channel for this, because obviously,
anytime.
You're known for the I don't usually come on and talk about comic book stuff.
No.
So...
No, but you're welcome to sometime.
Well, thank you. I just... your other guests have so much more knowledge than I do in a lot of those arenas.
True, but Dan, hey, to be fair, man, sometimes getting... even today, in this sense, just kind of the... getting a perspective from somebody who's not as into comics can be very fresh, too.
Yeah, certainly my experience is with him more on the movie side of things.
Yeah, and that's fine, honestly. No, I'm always down for discussions about all these things and, providing some insightful ideas.
Well, thank you.
Even on this. So, yeah, kind of a sad day, but I think more of a day of celebration. And
reflection on this guy's incredible legacy.
Yeah, more than anything. It's just amazing. Mm-hmm. The amazing Stan Lee.
And it's funny, every time you say amazing, I think about Amazing Spider-Man. You've used that adjective about 4 or 5 times in this video to describe him, and there's no... there's no way to overemphasize how amazing this man really was.
Maybe that's another reason he's an inspiration to me, because, I liked to read a lot growing up, and I read the comics, and he was always a fan of the wordplay, a fan of puns, and, and that's something that I've inherited, my sense of humor.
Absolutely.
So maybe that's another way I gravitated to him, because he loved that, and, and he would interject the adjectives, like, the amazing Spider-Man, the incredible Hulk, the invincible Iron Man.
It's true.
Think about it. He got kids thinking, that little kid, what is that word? Seriously, he got the artist to get them attracted to the image, but then engaged them with the story. The story, the characters, and it's just that
What a guy.
What a guy. I mean,
Yeah.
man, we could go on, but I know it's late. I know we got stuff to do in the morning.
True.
But yeah, if you guys have any thoughts, I'm sure you probably all have similar ideas, but let us know in the comments.
Yeah.
And yeah, thanks for watching, listening. And I guess just thank you, Stan Lee, for everything you've done and how you've impacted my life.
Yeah, what a life.
Everybody. And that stuff is going to go on till the end of
time.
Time, pretty much.
Absolutely.
I think so.
Yeah.
Some immortal.
I mean, listen, Shakespeare. 1600s. We're still talking about him 500 years later. Stanley.
You think Stanley?
If the world exists in 500 years, absolutely. There's no doubt. Walt Disney, Shakespeare, Stanley. I mean, they're all in there. You know.
You think he was one of those guys?
I really do.
I think you might be right.
Yeah.
I think there's very few, and I think he was one of those.
Yeah.
And I wonder if he even really thought of it that way.
He probably didn't. Yeah.
How about that? A light cast. Yes. Well, thanks everybody for jumping into Merlin's channel.
See you later.
Thanks, Dan. Check out Dan Reviews It for Meet the Connors.
Yes.
And,
good old Connors.
Other sitcoms and stuff, and I'll get some other videos to you in the future. Hopefully, talking about something else.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Stay magical.